The Raiders are in an interesting spot. Obviously, you want to win these last 3 games, but you also want to find out what you've got on the roster. So they just signed a defensive end. We'll talk all about him. I think this guy's dynamic, or he is dynamic, just has some injury problems. And let's see if he can get on the field and make something happen. If you're new to the channel, I cover the Las Vegas Raiders because they don't get the love nationally like they should. I'm actually a Detroit Lions fan, but I like the Raiders. They're my, kind of my second favorite team that I watch from afar. So on this channel, we'll cover things that the national media just would never touch. So let's take a look at what is happening. Janarius Robinson is coming up from the practice squad. They signed him to the active roster. Florida State Seminole, love it. They brought him up in week 12 against the Kansas City Chiefs, played in a couple of snaps, just 3 snaps, got a tackle in his first career game. So last year, or 2 years ago, he was drafted in the 4th round by the Minnesota Vikings, later signed with the Eagles after being waived his rookie season. He spent some time on the active roster of both teams, but injuries prevented him from seeing any real playing time. He totaled 8 sacks, 20 tackles at Florida State. So what you've got here is a guy that's just super athletic, dynamic. We'll take a look at his RAS score here in a minute. The RAS score is where, they just kind of measure your athletic ability high. And can you find these types of guys that have been injured in the past, maybe some ups and downs? He's still very young. I just think this is a great move for the Raiders to just see what you've got here at the end of the year, because playoff chances are low. We'll look at that as well. Playoff chances are low, but they're still not 0. They're 2% right now. But if you win this week, all of a sudden things really change. So it has to be there, and we'll take a look at it. But a 4.6 40-yard dash for this guy. He's 6'5.5", 263 pounds. I mean, like, that's just the type of defensive end that you love. You got Tyree Wilson kind of figuring him out, Max Crosby. I mean, I just feel like the Raiders are so close from having a great dynamic defensive line that could almost just turn the corner next year. But again, you've got to find out what you've got. I love, bring him up, 3 games to go. Let's see what you got. In some weird way, you're throwing the kitchen sink at these last 3 games, even though they're very important. They're also like, I don't know, we'll see what we got. So I love doing that. So you bring him on, you bring on another guy in Charles Snowden. So just bring him on to the practice squad. So he was recently with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Chicago Bears. And if you noticed a couple days ago, they signed this massive defensive tackle. So the Raiders are saying, look, let's bring in practice squad, active roster, bolster our defensive line. We've got injuries. We've got to figure out what we've got and see what we can do going into this year and then into next year. Because when watching the Detroit Lions rebuild over the last couple of years, what I noticed was just they were trying everything in their power to bolster their defensive line. And to be honest with you, still haven't quite gotten there, but that's where I saw the resources going when it came to a rebuild, or it came to how do we get back on track. And that is just like, it's so smart and good to see that the Raiders are doing that, because you have to be able to get pressure. You have to be able to cause some sort of problems from the defensive line side of things. And then the defense is firing, the offense is going. It's a momentum thing. You're getting sacks. I mean, there's a great way to turn around the energy of a team is if you can get sacks and get the defensive line humming. So I love to see what they're doing there. Now, if you go here, you can go out to the New York Times, and they've got playoff predictors, and it's anywhere. It depends on when you click on it, but let's refresh it. It's got the Raiders' chances of 2%. 3%, 2%. Okay, so they do a ton of simulations, and the odds are they make the playoffs, 2% chance that they make the playoffs. But you can go through here, week 16 scenarios, 17 scenarios, and week 18 scenarios, and it shows you that the black is good for the Raiders. So if we go here, have the Steelers and the Chargers win. Of course, the Raiders, Patriots, Jets, Raiders, Chargers, Ravens. 91%, right? So have fun with it. You can look at this. Point is, Raiders have to win out. Okay, so you put yourself in a very difficult situation. That's just the way it is. We know it. Raiders have to win out, make the playoffs. I love the energy with Antonio Pierce. I think there's things there. If anything, you're going to learn a lot about this team in the last 3 weeks. Already have learned a lot. They needed this change of culture. They needed some different voice. And if I've learned anything from the Lions, it's that, man, it is all about the culture. And I thought that was so corny when that used to be thrown around all the time. I'm like, but then when you see a real culture, you're like, oh, it does matter. So Dan Campbell's brought that to Lions. We'll see that with the Las Vegas Raiders. By the way, our main channel is Sports Talk Detroit. Love talking about the Lions, but again, Raiders always been my second favorite team that I've loved from afar. That I've always wanted to see them do well, get back in it. They've had some good years over the last 25. They've had a couple, just kind of like the Lions, right? Couple of good years, but where's that sustainability? Can you get the right coach, right quarterback, right culture, and really watch this thing just flourish for not just a year here, a year there, bad, but really have something for a long time to come. That's really the goal. It's not, that's what's exciting about the Lions. It's not that they're good, it's that it's going to stay for a long time. Would love to see that happen for the Raiders. So again, couple of defensive players signed. I love that. And we'll see what happens. These last 3 weeks are going to determine a lot. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see all of you on the next one.